I'm your host, James, aka Deuce Football. Joining me today is Gareth, aka Eno Football.
Hello. I'm doing well. Actually, not actually that well. Napoli let me down. Arsenal let me down.
Yeah,
Depressed.
0-0. Also joining me today, I've actually not done an episode with this lad today. It's Connor, or as he's known in the WhatsApp group, Sea Dog for some reason. Connor, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I find it funny that said Arsenal let him down when if you actually watch the game. I don't know, but I'm good. I'm buzzing. I'm happy. Yeah, I'm good. It's Sunday night. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, that's good to know. Let's just look.
Mate, you haven't had to just watch 2 hours of Rudy Garcia football.
Look, we'll talk about Rudy Garcia when he gets sacked.
Yeah.
Gareth, we'll go straight into the reason we're here, and it's the North London derby. It was Arsenal 2, Spurs 2. Quickly, was that a fair result in your opinion?
Yeah, I think across the balance of the game, it was like there were periods, especially the first part of the game, where I think Arsenal were much the more dominant team, and then I think towards the end as well, we were the more dominant team, and then the middle portion of the game, Spurs definitely had the better chances, and were more on the front foot and just trying to go at us really. I think. Obviously, the best non-scored chance of the game goes to Tottenham, but then a brilliant save from David Raya. So it's on the balance of things. I think it was a fair result. It's one that I think on another day could go another way for sure. But yeah, I think there's things that we could have done better. There's obviously, well, whenever you don't win, there's always things you can do better. But yeah, I would say fair.
Yeah, Connor, I wonder if you agree with that, because Tottenham are in like this weird position now. They're doing really well, and I feel like no one's quite expected them to do this well. But at the same time, a 2-2 draw, you feel like you probably could have come out with a win. Are you happy with the result, or are you a bit disappointed?
He's a Tottenham fan. He's celebrating a draw, obviously.
Here we go.
When's the parade?
Straight in already. I'm happy with it purely and solely for the reason that this was a game. Based on our record at the Emirates, we have a poor record at the Emirates. I'm mainly happy from the performance in the sense of whenever we've gone there in the past in recent years, we've set up to defend. We've let them come at us and we catch them on the counter, do it that way. We actually went at Arsenal today. That was the most important thing. And coming out before the game and saying, "Oh, we're going to play our way. We're going to continue to do what we're doing." The fact that he did it and it paid off, I'm happy. Yeah, I agree. Listen, I'd love to come away from the Emirates with a win in the league. We haven't done it since 2010 or whatever. But for me, I'm very happy with it because I feel like we're not at full capacity yet. I know Arsenal aren't either. I've been saying that. I think Arsenal are grinding out 1-0 results here and there. That that's a sign of a good team. But from our perspective, I'm so happy because I feel like we're still unbeaten. I feel like we got Liverpool next weekend. We've still got that momentum rolling. I am very happy, and I would love it if we'd have won. But I'm really content and just buzzing for the lads because for me, on the grand scheme of things, I say it was a fair result. So. Yeah, I'm a happy guy.
Oh, fair enough. Let's talk about the goals. The first goal of the game was the Romero own goal. Gary Neville on commentary did say that it was rash. Do you agree with that? I kind of think it is, but obviously he has to put his body in the way because he doesn't know if it's going in or not. Connor, are you looking at that like, come on, man, just do better than that?
No, I think it's rough. I think he's being bang out of order there on Romero, to be honest. Personally, I think it happens. In my eyes, that goal doesn't happen if Saka's closed down. We all know how good Saka is. You stop it before it happens. Everyone can point the finger. Yes, the shot might have been going wide, but in my eyes, all Romero's doing there is trying to stop it. He's not deliberately trying to sort of score an own goal there. No, he's not at fault at all. In my eyes, Romero couldn't do anything there. The defense around him has to do better. So no, he's innocent there in my eyes.
Yeah, he's not trying to like wallop the ball away as he uncontrollably. He's just trying to get in the way. Yeah. Are you the same there, Gareth?
Kind of. It's one of those where if he gets the block right, everyone's saying, "Oh, good block by Romero." Yeah. Nobody thinks more of it. It's when it goes wrong that everyone kind of piles on. I think up to that point, he'd had a pretty dodgy game as well. Just little bits on the ball, like were a bit dodgy. And then obviously later on, he gives away the penalty as well, which I think he was unlucky with as well. So I think it's one that like people will look at that and be like, "Oh, that was a really bad game." When actually, like, I think he started off a little bit rough, but by later on in the game, he was doing really well, and he was just unlucky with those incidences. I will say, like Gary Neville, I think he always just looks to find something to say to like drive a narrative, and it's probably comes from the his training and broadcast. You're always trying to find the narrative. You're trying to keep people hooked. It's not necessarily about being right. It's about just mindless kind of content in a way, and that's what his job is there to do. I don't think that is what the job should be, but I think that's what he sees his job as. So it is what it is. I think he's being a bit harsh. I think that happens a lot of the time. Like he was talking about when we scored our second goal, he was talking about over celebrating whilst Tottenham were going mental, just doing the exact same thing. And it's like, and he said that like as we were celebrating as well. And like you could say it was over celebrating, but that wasn't the cause of the goal. The cause of the goal was Jorginho's mistake. It wasn't the fact that we had all gone mental like a minute or so before that. So I think he just tries to find these things to pick up on, like drive a narrative. I think he was a bit harsh on Romero, but I think he's like harsh on a lot of players a lot of the time.
Yeah, when he goes, ooh, that's when you know. That's
I swear he enjoys it. Like he just
he does it. He does it on purpose, man. I'm certain of it.
He loves to see people fail, I think.
I'm certain. Yeah, 100%. Like I say, I have not seen this game. Was that a deserved like lead for Arsenal, or because I'm kind of in the dark with this?
To that point, it was, yeah. We'd had like a couple of like okay chances. Before that, there was one from Jesus, which was quite a tight angle. If it had been not so tight, he probably, well, I say he probably scores it. It's Jesus, so you never know. Yeah, I think to that point we were certainly dominating, and then after that, it kind of dropped off a little bit. And I think from our side of things, it certainly dropped off. But then you got to give credit to Spurs as well. I think they kind of realized, okay, we're behind here. We're not playing great. We need to like sort it out. Another player he was being really harsh on, I think, was Udogie as well. Like he definitely didn't have a great start to the game either. And I put a joking message in the group chat because Udogie was just getting a bit like he wasn't having a great start, and then Romero also didn't have an amazing start.
He was being dodgy, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and so I just put in the group chat like hilarious that they think like they get into the combined 11, which they don't, and I don't think it's even close, to be honest. But then after that, like Neville really went in on him, and I was like, I don't think that's quite fair. He's had a pretty bang average start, but he's not been that bad. But,
it's a hard game, man. North London derby, especially against someone like Saka, who's in brilliant form and such a big game player as well. I mean, it's his shot that results into the Romero own goal. It's not an easy game to play in, especially when you're Tottenham.
He's inexperienced as well.
You want to try and play that front foot style of football as well. It's not easy.
It's exactly that, and it's the risk that goes with that as well. When you're playing that style of football, you're asking to be caught out and them to catch you. So it's Neville's just.
And Brennan Johnson did him zero favors as well. Like I don't know if that was an instruction from Ange, but it didn't help get up against Saka early in the game.
No, Arsenal go 1-0 up. And Spurs equalise. And I tell you what, James Maddison here, the way he spins the defender. Who is the defender? I don't remember.
Saka.
Oh,
Saka. Which is even more funny because Saka did his silly little celebration.
Oh, of course he did, yeah, the darts.
Oh, I love it. I love it. For me, that is pure, fresh level karma in my eyes. And then he brings it out again for the second goal, and then they go and concede anyway. Honestly, no, I love it. It's pure. I don't know if you've seen Maddison's interview afterwards. He was saying, oh yeah, he had a little bit of banter with Saka, and Saka started doing a celebration, and then he literally said in it, he's like, yeah, so he said something along the lines of like, oh, I mugged him off or something like for the goal. Like, oh, I love it. It was pure. It was brilliant.
Yeah, Maddison there does so well. He spins Saka, runs down the line, cuts it back to Heung-min Son. Now I've only seen the goal in poor quality. Is it a good finish or lucky finish? Because I haven't seen. I can't tell.
It's a great finish.
Is it? Okay, cool. Fair enough. Yeah, Son makes it 1-1. Carries on in his incredible form. Do you think that was deserved?
I'd say so. I mean, I'll tell you what. Say this, Eno. So we had the discussion the other day about Raya and Ramsdale. Do you think Raya needs to do better when the ball is coming in originally from that?
No, because there's 3 defenders around Son who should be dealing with it, and like it comes in so fast. Like if he does that, he has to go out of position, and then there's a chance he gets caught out in another way. So I don't think there's anything he can do about it at all, really. I think Saka needs to do better. I can't remember which defender it is that goes over to then close down Maddison, but it's a bit late. I think it's either White or Saliba. I'm not sure. And then Rice, who I think had picked up his injury by this point, was just a little bit slow to get in and help cover on Son. And there was another defender there, again, either Saliba or White, I can't remember, who could have done better as well. But in general, I think it's one where it's like on any goal, there's always going to be like flaws and stuff. It's the only player I was really disappointed with there was Saka because he just got absolutely sent to the shops. The rest of them, like it's something, it's happened so quick that it's hard to make like the right decision immediately. And Madison does really well and Son does really well. So it's one you just got to say fair play. On the balance of play, like I was really frustrated because it felt like Tottenham had started coming forward a little bit by that point, but I was like, oh, they don't really deserve this. We've been the better team. But then after the next like 20 minutes, it's like, okay, well, they over those 20 minutes, they deserved something. And it just so happens they got it closer to the start of those. So yeah, it was. And again, if you do a good move and you score, even if it's your first attack of the game, you still deserve to score.
Yeah, is this as a result of the Rice injury, do you think? And I think who else came on? Havertz came on for Vieira, like at half time.
Yeah,
why?
Well, Vieira wasn't having a good game.
Wasn't he? Okay.
He was kind of getting bullied off the ball.
I'll tell you what he was doing as well. He's laying on the floor a lot, winding me up. Every time someone nudged him, he's on the floor laying. Honestly,
like, Mikel Antonio's doing the same today. Honestly,
Spurs were as well. First half, there are times where like slightest touch fall over. That's just modern football, isn't it? I think. But yeah, no, I mean, like with the thing with Vieira as well is he is like quite significantly weaker than your average midfielder. So I think like genuinely he's just someone who does go down easily naturally, but he probably does. I mean, pretty much every modern player does look for it these days. But yeah, he wasn't having a good game, and I think Havertz did play better when he came on. He was more physical and stuff, and better in the press. Had a couple of okay moments, but he didn't really do anything. But yeah, it probably wasn't the game for Vieira to start, I would say.
No, that's fair. What happened to Declan Rice? Do we know anything about it?
I haven't seen what caused it, but apparently he had a bandage on his calf. And then in the post-match, not press conference, but interview, maybe press conference, I don't know. But Arteta basically said he had an issue with his back. So I don't know what it was. From the sounds of things, there's no confirmation that it's really serious. So let's hope that that's the case. But yeah, don't know. We'll have to probably wait for more. I haven't because I was watching the Napoli game. I haven't been on Twitter loads, checking up what exactly what happened. So maybe there is an update out there, but I haven't seen it yet.
He left his rice in the microwave too long. That's my conclusion.
Christ.
We'll head on. We'll head on to the third goal of the game now with a contentious penalty, shall we say?
Well, yeah, the people have been saying that, was it a penalty with Romero and the handball? I know Connor's been very unbiased in his thing. When I saw it, I thought that is just so harsh on Romero because there's not really much he can do. But it's one of those, I don't think anyone knows what the actual handball rule is anymore. No. The referees don't actually know because there's zero consistency. And Man United fans are bringing up their one against Spurs, which I think was probably just as much of a penalty as this one, really. But I think the thing that really where I would have felt hard done by if they hadn't given it was that it was a shot on goal from Ben White. And was it definitely going to go in? I don't know because there isn't a defender who potentially gets there to block it. But if it doesn't hit Romero's hand, it's certainly going on target. And I don't think the keeper gets there. So, yeah. And the thing is, it stops us from seeing that. It's obviously not intentional, so he doesn't get booked for it or sent off. But yeah, it was unlucky from him, but I think probably the right decision. But again, some people will just disagree with that just because Neville didn't agree with it because I think he looked at it from a player's perspective of there's nothing a player can do there, but those aren't the rules. But again, we don't know what the rules are. Connor,
that's what bothers me because it is pick and choose the rule. It is ridiculous. And it hurts. This is what I was trying to explain to people when I was watching it with a few people in a social club, and I was like, for me, what it is yes, he can't do anything about it, but the shot's on goal. Okay, at the end of the day, if it's on goal and he's using his hand, it is a penalty. We would complain
up here as well. So
yeah, if it was us, we would complain as well. We would say, why have we not got the penalty? It sucks and it's stupid, and they need to figure out a way to sort out this handball rule because it literally is pick and choose, But in my eyes, it is a penalty, as rough as it is on him, as rough as it is having scored the own goal as well. So it's looking like he's had a worse afternoon. In my eyes, it is a penalty. As harsh as it is, it's the stupid reality of the stupid handball rules that we've got.
The problem is, I don't actually think there's a factual way of figuring it out.
No, because if that happens next week, they'll give a different thing, even the same referees might give a different decision. It's mental.
Yeah, 100%. But Tottenham do not let it Don't let it get to him. Saka goes and scores a penalty. Cool, composed penalty. Unless the keeper saves it, and it's a terrible penalty. It's 2-2. Son scores again, and this is Jorginho does himself no favours here. But the finish, it's composure at its finest, I think, Connor, mate. Oh.
Prime Sonny. It's Prime Sonny. He just looks so happy. Like he's he's in his element. And I know it sounds crazy to say this with Kane no longer here, but I mean, a lot of Tottenham fans have this theory of, oh, we're a better club now that Harry Kane's gone. And I'm like, no, we're not. Because if you have Harry Kane there, you actually get more goals from him in a system that fits him. But he looks so happy. He just looks like it's so hard to explain with him. But he's like him and Madders are best mates. Kane goes, oh, don't worry, I've got my mate Madders in now. We're going to be best mates as well. He is just so at home. I mean, in the Burnley game, he was shining, and people are getting so excited over one game. But he's just happy in the middle there. Like for me, when he's been on the wing over the past couple of seasons, I mean, he struggled a lot last season, but he's been sort of caged in. He's sort of half run out of ideas. But when he's in the middle, he's got freedom as long as he's got someone playing him in, which is Maddison, or even I was so impressed with Johnson today as well. I'm just so happy for him because he deserves it.
Yeah,
you're such a good fan, aren't you, Connor? Like,
Gareth, are you happy for Son that he scored 2 today?
Not today. I'm not. Generally speaking, I do quite like Son. Like, I think he's just a likable guy. Like, I know, like, he can be a bit like. Again, it's modern players. I don't really like get onto players too much for how they act on the pitch. I like Bruno Fernandes even. Maybe that's partially because I like players who are kind of dickheads. But Son's not like that, but he can sometimes go down a bit easier. Some people get on to him for whining. I know there's a bit of that.
Marnie was the same.
Yeah. But I think that's just modern players, isn't it? So I don't really care about that. I think naturally he's just like, he comes across really well in interviews. I've seen like a couple of like, not just like after the match, but like properly removed from like the game. He did a really good one with, is it Tim's, I think? And he just came across really likable, funny guy. So generally speaking, I don't mind him as far as spuds go. But today I was not happy for him.
Fair
Especially
enough.
when he was over celebrating.
Did anything else happen in the game?
I mean, lots of things happened. I can't.
I mean, yeah, we'll discuss them like personally. But is there anything you want to quickly?
Connor, is there anything you want to go on to?
No, I am interested by this constant narrative of thinking that we've over celebrated, but that's
no. I'm just joking because of the Neville.
There are people that do think this.
I know. Yeah,
it really grinds my gears.
Arsenal get it as well, and it's just like. It's in some situations that can be a thing, but like I think some people just try to go for it at every point. Again,
but why are there celebration police? Like I can't get my head around it because football is such a fantastic sport. We love getting so crazy and excited over it. And yeah, okay, I was at the Sheffield United game and I got so much stick for how crazy we were going, like. But at the end of the day,
my nan was giving me high five to Liverpool's second goal today. I'm not joking. Unreal.
Scenes.
I don't get why as well. Like I think it probably comes from people who don't really go to football. Because like when I went to, and especially like obviously most of the stadium people go there every week. But when I went to Arsenal West Ham, it was my first ever Arsenal game, and I felt just so overcome with emotion for the entire game. And there'll be people who only get to go a couple times a year as well. So like a lot of people are like that. It's just like. Ultimately, it's a game of emotions, and you shouldn't like try to police that. It is weird. Spuds celebrating a draw, embarrassing.
I'll tell you this now, Gareth. There are no emotions when Connor and I go watch England versus Malta. There are no emotions when the 8th goal goes in.
Everyone leaves at the 40th minute anyway. Obviously,
they're there for the holiday.
All the way out there and leave. I don't get it.
Good trip though. Good trip.
There for the beach.
Great.
Yeah, I'll go there again. Yeah. I want to talk about a Tottenham player here. He had a pretty poor season last season. Let's be real here. After signing from Brighton, he's Basuma. He started off well. What are your opinions on him, like overall this season and just this game in general? How did he play?
He's free. He is the best way I can describe him is he's free. Like a lot of people have said that it's almost like Conte kept him in some sort of cage and he wasn't able to be himself because he is so free. He's like, and I don't want to make this comparison because I feel like it's a crime to compare anyone to Moussa Dembele, but he is like, there's a parts of his play which make him like Moussa Dembele. It's like everything just goes through him from the back because, you know, if we're trying to be that team playing out from the back under Conte or Mourinho when we've got that defense that we have, it was never going to happen. When you're trying to do that, at least with Basuma there in that holding role and carrying it forward, it works tremendously. He is another one who's just happy. Like, the best way to describe it is there was a video that was going around not long after Ange had come. I think it was a pre-season game, and he was in a dressing room and he was just banging out some tunes or whatever. But he was so happy on his story. It was like everyone is purely just baffled at where this has all come from. So in my eyes, he's just happy. And I'd say today he was very well as well. For me, I'd say first half, I wasn't massively impressed with him. He did give the ball away a few times, but second half, I think the whole team upped the game a little bit, and everything that was largely from him. So I'm thoroughly impressed with him, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed he's happy. I'm impressed we're all happy. We're all sitting and talking about Tottenham, and we're happy. Do you know what I mean? This is crazy to me.
This
Look
is
how
not
happy
normal.
Connor is. Yeah. He wasn't amazing first half, and that's because there was like a lot more pressure on him. Arsenal were dominating the ball and stuff, and he didn't really do a whole lot up until like the probably 35th minute. I do think I've thought this like so far this season, and today like kind of confirmed it to me. I've not watched every Tottenham game, just to be clear. But when I have seen him this season, I've always thought he's getting so much praise, but I don't think he's really being tested. And it reminds me when Partey plays really well. Because when he plays really well, it's when he's not getting tested. But then when he gets pressured a lot, like people will say, "Oh, Partey's so press resistant," because they'll remember the bits that he does well. And so I think it's the same with Basuma, because there are quite a few moments in that first half where I was like, so that's a bit dodgy, and nothing's come from it, or someone's backed him up. You know, maybe Van der Ven's got in there, or Sar's got over to close whoever down. But there were just a couple moments like those are the kind of things that can go wrong, and it just reminded me a lot of Thomas Partey, really, that like the switch between the first and second half, because the second half our midfield was non-existent pretty much, because Ødegaard wasn't having a great game, and when Rice went off,
I was going to say there's a huge Declan Rice hole in that midfield for that second half.
Yeah, and so I found it funny when Tottenham fans were then jumping on Twitter being like, he's better than Declan Rice. It's like he only actually performed like that because Declan wasn't there. And I think like it's one of these things where like as fans, like I know this as an Arsenal fan because like I've seen it with Partey, I've seen it with plenty of players. There are some players you can literally go, this guy is absolutely incredible. And that's how I feel when I watch Declan Rice. And I remember having an argument with a West Ham fan last season, and then he got linked with us, and the West Ham fan was like, if you get him, you're going to see what we saw. And I was like, okay, maybe. And by this point, I'd started rating Declan Rice that a little bit more. But then when you see him for your team, he gives you that feeling of like security. And that's the thing that I hate about Thomas Partey, is I always feel a little bit worried when he's there, because there's every chance he can give the ball away. So that's the thing with Basuma, is like and Spurs fans in general, like Ange is like, get carried away, mate. He's bloody great. Get carried away. It's like, yeah, do to an extent, but also then like, and back your player, absolutely. If you want to, fair enough. Like if you want to get delusional, get delusional. But because I know this will happen, the moment it starts going wrong, and if he's at fault, a bunch of those people now who are overrating him, or maybe not overrating him, but just getting a little bit carried away, are going to be the first ones then going like, Basuma's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. That could be as soon as 2 months. So, yeah, I'd say just like, if I was a Spurs fan, just temper your expectations with Basuma. Like, there will be games where he is pressed a bit more and it's not quite as good. And I'm sure he'll improve on that. It was the same at Brighton as well. Like, I remember him getting like really, really praised at Brighton. And I was like, I do rate him very highly, but there was always this thing of like, I'm not quite sure if I actually want him to come to Arsenal, because I think it's one of those where in those big games, he could be someone who just lets you down. Today he didn't, but I think that was mainly because Rice came off. Not that he was atrocious in the first half by any means. It was just, a couple of moments. But yeah, that's my piece on Basuma. I don't know how you feel about that, Connor, if you agree or...
I think you're right about the expectations, at least, and I'm trying to keep echoing this every game after, every game at Tottenham Play every week, and I'm talking about it because I feel like, yes, we are, Ange is very much like, yes, do what you want, get as carried away as you want, but the fan base, as much as we are buzzing right now, they are getting a little carried away. I would say personally, like, I'm loving it, I'm enjoying the ride, but I agree. I think, we're not going to go unbeaten the whole season. We're going to lose games. So the main thing that we need from the fans is for them to understand that will happen, to then not start turning on the players. Someone like Højbjerg, in that little period of Mourinho and Conte, I'd say Højbjerg was probably one of the most reliable players. Yes, gave the ball away like 10 times a game, but he was a fighter. He'd throw himself in tackles. He'd do something when
best defensive midfielder in the league, according to a lot of Spurs fans at the time.
Just a proper Mourinho player, isn't he?
This is what I'm saying. So for me, it's and like I say, and now he's on the bench, and Spurs fans go, get him out. Atletico Madrid want him. They can have him for whatever, you know what I mean? Like for me, it's just being patient and knowing that, yeah, I agree. Basuma is not perfect, and Basuma will never reach those levels of Dembele. I want to make that very clear. But there are parts to his game that echo that. But at the same time, I think the main thing in the Tottenham team right now is it's a collective team. It's not anyone taking the game by the scruff of the neck and changing it at the minute. It's purely that whole team they're all working together for Ange. The whole system is working fantastic. Even Johnson comes in today and makes his full debut. I thought he was brilliant before he went off. Do you know what I mean? It's little things like that, rather than just one individual player.
Yeah.
Oh my word! Can I just say, Højbjerg in a Simeone Atletico team?
Oh mate, don't.
It's just, it needs to happen. Written in the stars.
Yeah.
Like,
probably the best example I can think of in terms of like Spurs fans getting carried away is actually Arsenal, because like last season there were so many examples where I was like, we're not as good as we think we are. We're not as good as we think we are. Stop like overhyping Partey. He's going to let us down at some point. And he became kind of my scapegoat for whenever anything went wrong for other reasons. But it also was true. There are other players in there as well. But like, I didn't go in on Rob Holding or certain other players as much, Zinchenko, because I just like them as people more. And I prefer to be more supportive. But realistically, there were always these problems. And this is the thing. I don't know if you want to go into this question now, James, but this whole thing of like, are Arsenal worse this season than last season? I think we need to like remember back to last season, a lot of those games where like we were like really lucky to win a lot of them. And I think Tottenham will have situations like that this season. When you're playing well and the confidence is high and everything's positive, you're going to just get results from, even if you don't play as well, just from the positive feeling, the confidence around the place, you know, and the fans driving you on. These are things that will make a difference. And in a tight game where you're not playing great, and actually it's a 1-1 game, you might just get that goal. That game against Sheffield last week, where you get the 2 goals in injury time, you know, that is pretty much all. Like, I know you've played well generally throughout the game. You're unlucky not to be winning, quite frankly, but it was a situation that easily could have gone wrong, but things are going right, so it just worked out. But on another day, you know, if they give 4 minutes injury time instead of the 10, Tottenham there are looking absolutely distraught. Like, how have we lost this game at home? And potentially then you're heads drop, and then come into this game, potentially you lose that as well. So it's one of these things. At some point, like, it's not going to be going absolutely perfectly. And yeah, my advice to Tottenham fans would be, don't go in on the players that you've been claiming are the best in the world. And Udogie is better than Zinchenko, even though he's like barely had like I mean, he was very impressive in Italy. I actually watched him more than pretty much every Tottenham fan. So there you go. I actually know how good he is. Romero as well has had some absolutely fantastic stuff, but just calm down.
Yeah, Gareth and I are the
don't
biggest
get in the
haters of
Arsenal
Christian
team.
Romero in the world.
You are.
Yeah,
we're the biggest haters of Romero. We're the Romero hate club. We just think he's really rash.
No, I think the problem is, when he first came to Spurs, I really rated him based on what he'd done at Atalanta. And then he started well at Spurs, and I was saying he's like one of the best 3 centre-backs in the league. But that was when things were kind of going right, and it's one of these things where it's like, and again, he started this season very well. Maybe it was last season was a blip.
What I will say, actually, just interject there quickly, what you're saying about Romero being rash. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree to that up to this season. And I know it's 6 games, and I'm not trying to get carried away. Already, my thing straight away is, his first yellow card of the season was today. You got 6 games in. In my eyes, that's a vastly different Romero already to the Romero we've got based on last season. There's a clip going around on Twitter of, I think it was a Sheffield United game. Emerson got fouled. It was about to go up somewhere. Romero almost pulled him back, as if. When is Romero ever that player?
No, he's not.
Romero's the one who's pushing Emerson out the way, going, "I want to have you." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to be fair, I've not watched Spurs this season. Both times been on TV, I've been at Liverpool. So
yeah,
just can't.
No, I think he's obviously been better this season. One player I want to talk about, actually, Van de Ven. I think it's been absolutely fantastic. And people going on about Romero because he's the more aggressive defender who'll do the more impressive stuff. I think Van de Ven's looked absolutely incredible. And I kind of thought, like, coming in today, I was like, I don't know who's really had the better season so far. But then based on this game as well, I would say Van de Ven, because he was fantastic today. And obviously Romero was unlucky, but he did make mistakes. So I'd say just about he's probably been the better of the two. But yeah, I think I remember when I first saw him. I never watched him before. It was at Tottenham, and I was like, oh no, they've got it's like when they signed Alderweireld, where no one else really wanted him. They're like, go on, then we'll have him, and he was actually world class. And I'm worried that that's going to happen again. But him and Romero, they complement each other really well as well.
I listen. I'm so on the Van de Ven hype train. Like, and again, it's 6 games. I know, but for me, I've never seen a centre back come straight into a team and be so calm and assured. He's 22 as well, so for me, he's young. He's fast. He's comfortable on the ball. You know, he's not afraid to put a foot in. I love him. I would argue that. Based on the season at the minute, for me, he has been better than Romero, which is crazy. But Romero's upped his game as well in terms of the rashness. No, I love him.
Let's talk about
Gabriel
another
was the
signing.
best centre back on the pitch today, though.
Who was sorry?
Gabriel. He was unreal. He was unreal.
Let's talk about another signing. It's a controversial signing.
Well,
David
Van
Raya.
de Ven failed to close down Saka. That was a slight mistake. Romero made mistakes. Gabriel did nothing wrong. Won absolutely everything.
All right,
Best
listen.
back on the pitch.
I'm going to let you have that one because I still don't rate Gabriel, so I'm not going to get into this. I'm not going to get into
just delusional, aren't you, Connor?
Goalkeeper situation. Does David Raya makes a great save in this game? Does David Raya deserve to start ahead of Aaron Ramsdale?
Go on, Connor. You give your thoughts.
Oh,
me and Connor have had a conversation about this.
Right. Okay.
We don't agree.
From a neutral perspective, genuinely of having watched, and I watched quite a lot of Arsenal last season. Obviously, it was the title run in every game basically every game on TV. You know, Sky doing their best to appease the fans.
Nice of you to support us.
Standard. Won't happen again. For me, I'd say at the minute, yes, because he's not put a foot wrong, but I'm quite baffled by the fact that he's started in the first place. Personally, I'm genuinely a bit like, in my eyes, I wouldn't have taken Ramsdale out of the team. And for me, there was no reason to take Ramsdale out of the team. I like Eno when me and Eno were chatting the other day. I think James is frozen, by the way.
Yeah, it's so funny the face he's frozen with.
I'm trying to talk, but I'm looking at James's face is frozen. Yeah, for me, what you were saying about Ramsdale starting in the Champions League, I thought it was going to happen. I thought it was a bit like, let Raya have the game against Everton, this, that, the other. But yeah, I'd say at the minute he deserves to be starting based on having not really put a foot wrong. But I still personally think Ramsdale's a better goalkeeper. Personally, I don't know if Arteta has a soft spot for Raya being Spanish and like Spanish mode. Or not, I don't know. I'm gonna put that theory out on Facebook soon. You watch, not Facebook.
Facebook.
Who's
using Facebook?
On Twitter. I'm gonna put it out on Twitter soon. Anyway, what about you? I'm interested with you because you are the Arsenal fan who, well, you know this better than I do.
Well, it's interesting. I think the reason he's starting him, as far as I understand it, I mean, back when we signed Ramsdale, David Raya was actually the number one choice of who Arteta wanted to sign, as far as I understand it anyway, from the sounds of things I heard at the time. And so maybe it's been that he's always kind of just preferred David Raya, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get him at the time. Whereas now, obviously, Ramsdale's gone on, he's proven himself, but Raya was then available, and we managed to strike a pretty decent deal. So they went and got him. And now we've got these two fantastic keepers who are probably both a very similar level, I would say. Like when we made the signing, I was like, oh, I don't actually know who to start because they've both got different qualities, and maybe it depends on the game. Ramsdale's a better sweeper. I think he's potentially a better shot stopper. It's hard to say because when you play for a team like Brentford who crowd the box with defenders, it's much easier to save shots. That's why his shot stopping stats look better than Ramsdale's. Whereas when you play in a high line, you're much more exposed. You're more likely to concede a shot or whatever, when they come. It's just the theory is they don't come as often. And part of that is through shot prevention, like you're sweeping, like you're claiming crosses. David Raya is better at claiming crosses, significantly better. He's borderline perfect in that regard, whereas Ramsdale is much better at sweeping. So they've got their own quality. So I was thinking maybe this will be one where he plays them depending on who, depending on the game. Arteta said he would be happy to substitute them out. Maybe, if we really want to go for a game, you play Ramsdale so you can push higher up and he's better at sweeping. But then you're 2-0 up and you want to just protect the lead and you've got a spare substitution. Bring Raya on because he's better at catching and, commanding his area and all that. Is that something that he genuinely wants to do? I don't know. Is that something he's just saying because to try and deflect from the fact that actually he has got a new number one? I don't know. But I agree with Connor. Raya hasn't put a foot wrong so far. So in that regard, you just keep playing him. He's played well.
I just want to say, Mikel Arteta does seem like the type of manager that would do that. Substitute a goalkeeper because of the game state. And you know what? Goalkeepers are becoming so, they're much more than a goalkeeper now. They are a part of the actual outfield team now. I kind of get it. I actually think it makes sense. I don't know if you agree with that, but
Yeah, I do, because like we've not seen a whole bunch of David Raya doing sweeping and stuff, but against Everton the couple of times we did see it, he did look a little bit shaky. So it is a situation where if we're playing like for example, a weaker team and we really want to push high, maybe you do start Ramsdale. Alternatively, if you really want, if we're playing a better team and we're one down and we're like there's 20 minutes left, we really want to push, you could even bring on Ramsdale to allow you to push higher if he does feel like the difference in their sweeping ability is big
we
enough.
have 5 substitutes now. Why not use one of
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. Well, usually he'll use like 3 or 4 anyway. So
Yeah.
at most, sometimes only 2. So yeah, it is something that could be a thing. But does David Raya deserve to start for Arsenal? Yeah, he hasn't put a foot wrong so far. So probably yes, he does. But I did feel so sorry for Ramsdale in the Champions League, because he was the one who helped us get there, and I think Arteta apparently wants to give Raya a run of games, and I can understand that he wants to get a proper look at him in, a match itself. So fair enough, and you're going to need more than one match, especially against Everton where he wasn't really tested. Today he makes a great save. That was another question answered. But then there are questions being raised about his distribution. Apparently, people were not happy with when he was pressed. His distribution wasn't great. I think number one, this is something that, because Arsenal fans are really getting onto him on Twitter for this. First of all, Ramsdale does struggle with that as well. When he gets pressed, he just hoofs it long. And at that point, then it's down to the outfield players to go and try and win the ball. If not, win the second ball. If not, close the game off and try and like press high up. It's kind of like a rugby tactic. You hoof the ball down the field and then you try and get as far up to then, even if you can't win the ball back immediately, just it's about territory and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you watch like early years of Klopp,
Yeah.
Do you remember on Twitter people would constantly say, "Oh, Liverpool are hoofball team"?
Yeah.
We would do it just to win the second balls because we would press the living daylights
Yeah.
out of you, and we can do it. And it's how we get upfield.
And that's
we didn't have the ability at the back to pass it.
Yeah.
So
And that's
how it worked for us.
that's what we've always done. Like since Ramsdale came in, that's been one of like the biggest parts around our game. People think we're this, tiki taka, play it out from the back, but we are happy to kind of sit back at times, hoof it long, try and win the ball, or if not, win the second ball. We're happy to do that. But anyway, that was something Raya was getting criticised for today, and like I say, I think it's a bit unfair because one, Ramsdale does that, and two, I think as much as like not all of his kicks are absolutely spot on, it's hard when there's not really an immediate option, and Son's closing you down, Madison's marking the guy over there, Kulusevski's marking the guy over there. It's hard to then go, okay, well I can't really pass it short without something really risky, so I've got to go long. And then you go long, and Nketiah is not working hard enough. He wasn't good enough today. Saka's kind of like not quite high enough up the pitch. Erdegaard's not, getting into it as much as he could. And whoever else is up there, Reece Nelson was up there at one point, Gabriel Jesus. And one of those players can't go and do it on his own. So especially if Nketiah is not working hard enough, it's kind of really hard. So I think a lot of his distribution looks worse than it was. In general, like I'm still very 50-50 on it. I do feel safer with David Raya. I just think like how good he is at claiming those crosses, and his short distribution generally is much better. But I think it's quite even. It's one that we'll see as time goes on. We'll get a better idea. But yeah, I am starting to lean slightly towards Raya, I would say.
You just mentioned this one player here, Gabriel Jesus. He missed a good chance today.
Yeah,
really good chance. Would that have made it 2-0? I don't remember.
Yeah, and I remember at the start of the season when we signed Havertz, some people were like, we shouldn't be spending this money on Havertz. We should be spending it on either a proper left-sided number 8, not one who kind of can play a bunch of different positions, or if he wants him to play striker, we should be going and getting a striker. And people were like, we don't need a striker. We scored loads of goals last season. Gabriel Jesus will get at least 15, and Nketiah will chip in. And it's like, yeah, okay, and that's that. And we finished second, and we deserve to finish second because of that. We're a great team, but if we want to push on, you've got to improve every position. Not every position, but you've got to improve a lot of these key positions. And striker, we absolutely need a striker. Whether it's an Osimhen, whether it's an Evan Ferguson, who I think could take that step and kind of play.
You're not having him. I'm going to cry if you sign him, honestly.
He could play like 50-50 with Jesus and stuff whilst he's not quite ready. If he's not quite ready, I think he's more or less ready. But yeah.
Look, there was an Arsenal fan available in the summer. He went to Germany. I don't
know what, man. Listen,
what
are you doing this for?
Boy, fan Harry
You
Kane.
got to do that. There's no need to say that, is there?
I think he would have been a great signing. I think we could have got him as well. A big step up for him coming to a much bigger club, so he would have been up for it.
Yeah,
Smaller stadium though, Gareth. Smaller stadium.
Is it?
I don't
listen,
know. Actually,
mate.
I think they're like
nothing on our toilet
55,000.
bowl. Our toilet bowl is something special, right?
Toilet
So don't be giving it.
I would like to go there. I hope England play a game there. They won't, but I hope
No,
they do.
it's all at Wembley. It's always at Wembley.
Oh, it is bigger. Crap.
That Argentina game that we're being linked with, that'll be at Wembley. Standard.
Oh, mate, I would die to go to that game.
Yeah.
Like,
See
One
Messi.
last for Messi. Yeah.
Gareth, I'd be able to get you a ticket if you wanted to come,
Yeah, I
Gareth.
think I would have to go to that. To be fair.
Yeah.
I
Sound.
can wear my Argentina shirt. With my Maradona. What were we talking
Not
about
go
before?
that well in England, then, mate.
We were talking about like strikers.
Oh yeah, basically, we do need a new striker. Gabriel Jesus is great, and like I really like him as an option to play on the wing as well. Either wing, he did it at City a lot, and he was really, really good there. So yeah, I've and obviously he can still play through the middle, but I'd love him as like an option to play anywhere across that front three, and then a main striker. He can be competition for Martinelli and Trossard and Saka, and he'll get plenty of minutes doing that. I think. Ultimately, he'll have to accept that at some point. I know he came to us for first team football. He's going to get 2 seasons of it, but then I think he's going to have to accept. I hope he does, because I hope Arteta makes his move. He'll have to accept it, I think.
Connor, it's been 41 minutes. We've not really spoken about the man himself. The Australian legend, Ange Postecoglou. What has he got right at Spurs so far? Like,
getting rid of Harry Kane.
Oh, you know what? Listen.
Where do you start with this? He is... The way they've dealt with this Kane situation, I think, is very, very impressive because a lot of managers could have just fumbled the bag with this.
I agree. And I think...
Toxic personality. Got him out.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I'll let you speak.
Yeah, obviously.
This is the thing. Like, I will keep arguing this. Listen, if we had Harry Kane in this team, we would be flying more. We would.
He might win the league.
Do you know what? Listen, man, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. For me,
Harry Kane has cost Tottenham a trophy.
He's still going. For me, Harry Kane, Postecoglou, right? In my eyes, what he's got right is just being himself. Like for me, there has not been a manager like him who is human, like as human as he is. He seems like one of us. Like, and it sounds a bit silly saying that because footballers, managers are one of us. They're all thing, but Postecoglou just seems like someone who is so humble and happy to have that job. He really like he's done loads of interviews saying, he felt like this was his last chance to manage in the Premier League. And then he spoke about his roots, about how he sort of emigrated to Australia from Greece, all that. And he's just so human and he's so friendly with not just the players, the fans. I don't know if you saw the clip from the fan forum when he's one of the fans, like the forum had ended and one of the fans forgot to ask him something. And he was like, no, ask away. Like he is so happy to be here and the players want to play for him, and that's literally it. He's just cemented his identity, and it's going to be very different from him than it was with Mourinho and Conte, because if things start to go wrong, he will take the blame himself. He's not one of these people that will purely just pick out individual players. He will go, no, it's my fault. I tried to play this way, or maybe he was carrying it. Like, he will defend his players to the end of the earth, and that is why he is exactly what we need in terms of they complement each other. The style complements his personality because it's just so positive. So in my eyes, he can't do no wrong. He can't. The thing that is holding us back potentially is if he doesn't get backed. If there are, if we have Perisic is out for the season now. If we don't have cover for players like Doji and, centre backs, again, if Mickey van der Ven's out, Romero's out, we're back to square one. So
Eric Dyer and a kid.
Oh, this is what I'm saying. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's really not ideal, but it's so hard to explain with him, but he just makes you feel happy. Like I can't remember the last time there was a manager at Tottenham where, and I know it's Twitter, but everyone on Twitter was talking about the last interview he did. Like, name me, I can't think of any manager where a fan base has gone, have you watched our latest interview, Postecoglou? Like, everyone's interested in what he has to say because he's...
Klopp was exactly the same when he joined Liverpool.
Really? Okay.
He used to be really
had,
positive
Brendan
and nice,
Rodgers was just chatting absolute rubbish. Then you have Jurgen Klopp coming in just saying you have to turn doubters to believers, and his interviews are always interesting. He was a really chill dude. He's going out for beers with the fans and stuff like that. Just someone you are interested in. You want them to do well. Like, even as an opposition fan, well, you probably didn't, but You know what I mean?
I
Just
did.
they're more personal. They're more like personable. Brendan Rodgers, Mourinho, Conte. They're characters.
Yeah.
They're characters. When Brendan Rodgers is the ultimate character, because he shows great character all the time.
I have it on good authority that Brendan Rodgers is actually an absolute wanker. And
No, apparently he is. I've heard so many things.
yeah. When he was in South Wales, certain, we won't go into it. I don't know what
Have you
I
told
could
you
potentially
them
get
where
sued for.
he was Reading manager and they were losing at half time and he just started speaking
Yeah.
Spanish to everyone. No one spoke Spanish.
He's such a
Brendan
strange
Rodgers things. Brendan Rodgers things. The thing about Klopp now, though, and call me, biased or unfair, I think Klopp now is negative. I
No,
think
he is.
I think
Yeah,
Klopp
he's
in his
changed.
interviews is awful. Like he belittles journalists. He's full of excuses. Yeah, for me, he's not fun to watch in interviews anymore. I watch a Klopp interview and I'm like, why am I watching this? Like it feels negative, and in my eyes, and again, I'm a Tottenham fan. I might have a little bit of bias there, but I don't feel like that would ever happen with Ange. I feel like if there was any sign of things turning within the club, then Ange would probably go. But like I say, he just seems so happy and humble. He just feels so happy to have that chance to manage in the Premier League, and it's shining on the players because I'm sure some of them feel. And I'm not trying to big us up as a massive club, but I'm sure some of them feel that it's a fantastic opportunity to be at Tottenham, even if whether it's a stepping stone or not. Someone like Adoji could well move to Real Madrid one day. Oh, I think if he keeps it up, but you know what I mean. So it's for him now. I feel like he's built his stepping stones up, and he just wants to build something massive with Tottenham because we've got the foundations. We just have to back him.
Yeah, you really do have to back him as well. It's one of those where, like, let's say you finish fourth this season, third or fourth, Tottenham fans will be absolutely delighted with that. Maybe even win. Let's say you even win the FA Cup, because like that is pretty much the best season you can imagine from this point of view, without getting too carried away. Winning the league, because that pretty much buys him the lifetime, doesn't it? But let's say he does that, and then next season it's going badly, and you finish seventh and get knocked out of the cups early, don't do well in Europe and stuff like that. He's someone where even in that situation. And even if it didn't go well this season, I would still like it, kind of like with Arteta, where you could see that something was building. It's like you back him and you support his vision, because realistically, yeah, Tottenham, maybe in 2 years you could sack him and get someone else, blah blah blah, if it doesn't go absolutely perfectly. But at the same time, I think he does play the right brand of football. He clearly knows how to get the best out of players, as we've seen, and it's so hard to get that like right person to build your club around as a manager. Man United struck gold with Fergie. I'm not saying he's going to do that. But Arsenal did really well with Wenger for a long period of time. City, obviously, with Pep, he was already a huge manager. So it's a bit different. But Liverpool, Klopp, to not quite again, not quite the extent of Fergie, but even so, great success. And if Pep and City aren't there, you have like this unbelievable Klopp was just very unlucky, basically. I'm not saying Ange can absolutely take you to that level. We'll see on that. But why not, realistically? Like, obviously, there's issues with the debt of paying off the stadium and all that. But you're able to compete in the transfer market for sure. He's a great manager. You've got a great spine to the team, a good young spine as well. Why can't you start dreaming of, okay, in 5 years, why can't we be winning the league? There's no reason, like, you've got the budget to do that, and if you can build around the manager, you should be able to dream that far,
Mate, once Pep leaves, it's anyone's game.
Well,
it's anyone's game, man. I can't wait.
I think he's going to leave soon, and yeah, it could be a season where it could be a thing where you see Arsenal win the league 1 year, next year it's Liverpool, and then maybe Tottenham. And
we start with Arsenal, like straight away. Arsenal win the league first.
Yeah, we're getting there first.
Ian started. Can you explain all that to Mr. Daniel Levy, please?
Yeah, no. Well, this is the problem. This is always your problem. Like you sack Poch at the first sign of something going not perfect, and then you go and get Mourinho, Conte, Nuno Espirito Santo. Like, obviously Conte and Mourinho have had success, but not with clubs like Tottenham. And then quite clearly, like, Conte didn't even want to be there because he rejected you immediately. So why would you go back for someone like that? It's just Daniel Levy is Tottenham's biggest problem by far. But a Spurs fan should hope he sees what he's got, backs him, even if it's not to like the absolute dream extent. Just back him, get the players he wants, and you'll see, positivity around the club. And, there's no reason you can't be consistently finishing top 4, challenging for trophies. There's no reason why not.
And there's no excuses at this point as well, either. I think the past couple of years have shown that. I think, in the fans forum the other day, he was talking about how, I decided to bring these winners in and it didn't work. But yeah, you brought winners in, but then left them with a defence full of Eric Dyer and Ben Davis. And
that didn't help.
Do you see what I mean? How does that work with defensive coaches? And if you then stray away from that and you bring in that sort of character again, I'm not saying he's like a Pochettino, but it's progressive football with young footballers. It's better. If you do that again, you can't afford to make that mistake once again if things start to turn sour. You have to back them, and we're not building a stadium at this time. So now there's no excuses with that.
Yeah. No, you've got the foundations for sure. Can I quickly say on Ange as well, before we move on, that you mentioned the fans forum thing. There was that thing where a guy with Down syndrome asked a question, and I felt the way he handled that, and this is like part of why he's so likable. He handled that perfectly because he wasn't condescending. He wasn't like, obviously he was like picking him out, making sure that he got to ask this question more, rather than like, I'm going to treat you completely differently, because he was making sure he got to ask this question. So, and maybe he wouldn't have done that for someone else. But first of all, it's right to do that, but he didn't do it in a way that was condescending. A lot of the people in the room, this obviously they were trying to just be nice, but they all started applauding, and it felt a little bit condescending. But he just sat there with like straight face, treated him just like he would any other person, and that's so great. And I grew up with a kid who had Down syndrome, and yeah, like one of the things that Fionn told me, he was a kid, was when I went back to Ireland. He said, and I met him. He said, oh yeah, I remember you, blah, blah, blah. He still messages me a happy birthday every year. But the thing he said to me was like, you never treated me differently. And I was like, oh, I didn't really realize that people with Down syndrome fully picked up on that. But obviously, to some extent, they will. And again, people with Down syndrome, it varies. But so yeah, they're not like these idiots that like, don't understand social cues whatsoever. Fionn absolutely understood, what was going on. He knew, what was going on. And yeah, so I think he handled that situation perfectly. And like, again, a lot of managers, a lot of people, and it's not to say that those people are wrong, because it's just a lack of education and all these things. But the fact that he did that, I was just like, there's literally nothing this guy can do wrong, like at least in terms of when it comes to treating people. And yeah, you just can't hate him. You just can't.
Even an Arsenal fan saying that, you can't hate the manager.
Know, right?
There you go. That's the Ange effect. Ange ball.
Can't hate Martin Jol either.
Oh, you can't. I love him. There's another reason I hate to have a problem with Daniel Levy. Half time, sucking him at half time.
Oh yeah,
horrible.
Gareth, I'm going to end on this. Arteta out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think. I think we definitely need to get rid now. No. Are Arsenal worse than we were last season? This is a question that's been going around on social media a lot. It's tough to say, but one thing I do think is like really important with Arsenal this season, last season. First of all, it's like expectations, because last season we had a good season, but like, and when we didn't have a great game, but we still got a result, or even the games that we didn't earlier in the season, because there was this general positive attitude. People were just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll move on to the next one. Let's not get too carried away in negativity. Whereas now, when things aren't going perfect, it feels like because we've had that season, we've fallen when we probably should have, or we had a very good chance to win the league. We've fallen. There's a lot of now bitterness growing, and this is what Tottenham fans will experience at some point with Ange as well, because there will come a time where like the positivity and like we're doing really well, that will come to an end. And you're like, okay, we want to push on though. We want to push on. And some people's patience won't quite be there. And it's like, to get to the level City are at, it's just ridiculous. You either have to, because they not only spend a lot of money, and I know like they haven't spent the most every year, and the net spend, blah, 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 arguments people make, but they have spent a lot of money to build their foundations, and then they top up every year. And then they've got the best manager in the world as well. And I don't think you can criticize Arteta for not being Pep. I don't think you can criticize Ange for not being Pep. All these things, So yeah, that's just like something I wanted to say, I guess, in terms of like there are expectations we have to just temper and just go like, we obviously want to go on, push on, and challenge for the league again. Hopefully win it, maybe even win the Champions League if we want to get really carried away. But we need to temper it. But generally speaking, the differences that I see some people saying that like Rice out for in for Partey is an issue because Rice is better. Partey is better on the ball, which I don't agree with. Rice against Everton was like dictating
Yeah,
dictating
that
the
is a
game.
bold opinion.
Yeah. I've seen like really sensible people
Who's
saying
saying that?
I'm not going to name them because it's mean.
Literally
But
doing that for money on Twitter. That's all they're doing.
yeah, but no, Rice like he's actually way better on the ball than I thought, and it's not like he's Rodri or like he's not Andrea Pirlo kind of defensive midfielder by any means, but how good he is in midfield in terms of like defensively absolutely makes up for any like slight drop off there might be. But aside from that, I think the biggest miss actually for us is Granit Xhaka, because you look at that left eight. When Havertz plays there, it's not quite the same. It's not really good enough. And when Fabio Vieira's played there, he's had some really good moments and a couple really good games. But generally speaking, he's not as good as Granit Xhaka was. And he'll improve. I'm not sure about Havertz. I think his best position is up front. So I think maybe that's something we can come on to and maybe sign like a left eight. But I think that's the main issue, because like I think that's the issue with our creativity, is that side is a lot more locked off, especially because we've had the injury now today with not only Martinelli but Trossard as well. That side is much, much weaker, and we were really having to kind of spam it down the other side, and that means there's so much more pressure on Ødegaard and Saka, and they're being getting more and more exhausted because everything's kind of having to fall on them, really. So there's a couple of different things that I think we'll have to look out for, and as the season goes on, maybe we'll see that Arsenal aren't quite as good as last season, but I think we were a bit overrated by our fan base last season as well. So we'll see. I don't know how you guys feel about us this season compared to last.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to be overrated by your own fan base when you're top of the league for so long. Like, it's hard. But then City just do a City thing. The problem is this season, City have started off flawlessly.
Yeah.
Usually they start pretty slow.
Yeah.
You get this hope, you get this false hope, and they just win 20 games in a row. But no, they're just doing that at the start now.
They'll win the league easily, and like they'll probably get over 100 points this year. Like the thing that gave us a chance last season is that halfway through the season, because City started last season pretty well. I think they won 9 of their first 10 or something like that, or 8 and drew
that's
one
a bad
and
start
lost
for
one.
City, in my opinion.
For City, if by City standards, it's not perfect by any means, but it was a good start. But then after they lost to Brentford, I think they like dropped loads of points against Tottenham. Thank you for that, even though it didn't do anything in the end. But you gave me a bit of hope.
There were fans that actually wanted us to lose that game, may I say? Because we can't let Arsenal. I mean, that's a whole nother debate in itself. But that's Tottenham fans for you. So
every fan base has got idiots in it. But like City in the middle of the season didn't do great, but then Pep made his changes. But now he's got those changes. He's got that new system. He's added more players. Obviously, they've lost Gundogan, which is like a big blow. But then, like they've brought other players in. Vardiol makes their defense even better. And obviously now Alvarez is kicking on to another level and all this thing. Doku looks like an amazing signing as well. So it's just like they look, even better this season, really. And it's just like, oh mate, when is it going to end? Just get Pep out. Like I think we need to. Deep investigations into Pep Guardiola. Find him for like knowing about doping players, because everyone's doping. We all know that. But
no bold managers allowed in the Premier League.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that.
That'll
Who would that rule
out?
No.
I'm enjoying I'm enjoying United with Ten Hag.
That is true. To be fair, that is true.
It's quite funny. But if he had to go and then they brought Ollie back,
that would be hilarious.
True.
I want to say on Arsenal, sorry though, to be honest, because I'm quite interested that some of your fans do have I've been watching some of them say that there is, I saw a tweet going around a little while ago saying, why does Arteta keep changing it? What is he, what's his problem, this, that, level? I find it quite fascinating that people are questioning. I mean, you need to question, arguably. I agree with that, but I find it quite funny that they were questioning that. Now, for me personally, I would say that Arsenal aren't as good as last season for a multitude of reasons. Personally, from the fact that I would say last season would have taken a lot out of you. No one expected you to get that far, let's be honest. This season, there is that added level of expectation, so it's an added level of pressure. I think Rice is, again, for me, one of the signings of the summer. He is absolutely fantastic. If you can keep him fit, it's brilliant.
I feel so much safer in games this season, and it's just because of him. Like, even if we're not playing better, I'm like, I think we'll still nick a win here, like against Everton, because like I just don't really see them doing anything. And Raya, like I say, I feel safe with him as well because he just claims every cross, and I'm like, okay, well that's good. There's another way we can reduce the pressure on the goal, and then hopefully one goal will come, because I think even when we play badly, we're likely to score. We got 2 today, and I think we weren't great going forward. So
And that's exactly it. Like for me, I keep saying this about Arsenal. The best sides will grind out those results. So I'm a fan. That 1-0 to the Arsenal song is so prominent because Arsenal are doing that still. That Everton game, I wouldn't say they were particularly great, but they grinded out the result. I'd say Saka was played well today. I'd say Saka played well in midweek, but I wouldn't even say he's been particular. I'd say that he's a bit slow at the start of the season, really. So
yeah,
that Arsenal get it. And Trossard has been fantastic. It's unfortunate that obviously, like you say, he was unavailable today. Martinelli, big fan of him as well. So it's not. Obviously, they aren't as good, but I would say it's being tired from last season. I'd say it's pressure. I'd also say the Champions League is going to take a lot out of them as well, which is why it never happened to win the league because it's just too much.
Yeah, I'm putting my hopes on winning the Champions League because City are going to win the league, and I think we can beat most teams in Europe if we turn up, basically. So I'm just hoping if we can just turn up in those midweek games, do kind of like a Liverpool-esque run in the Champions League, especially later rounds. Like if we know that we're not winning the league, but top four is pretty much sorted.
Take it from the only fan here that's seen his team win both. The Champions League's better.
Well, if you do Invincibles, mate.
Oh, for God's sake. Here we go. 90 points. Well done. Klopp's beaten that 3 times already. Great.
Yeah, but Invincibles, mate.
Wow, drawing to a league title. Is there anything else you boys want to talk about?
Don't think so. We've been here for an hour now.
Yeah.
So.
I think Arsenal just need to understand that this season isn't going to be as good for them, but they still have a great season.
We're winning the Champions League.
Well,
I just explained why.
Arsenal Napoli final. We will be there.
I think
no,
definitely not.
I think you're right. There are holes in your team still, personally, and I don't want to keep digging out Gabriel. I do think that.
Mate, he's been perfect.
I will just say this. I do think that is someone you can improve. For me, on Havertz as well. I like Havertz actually. He's not good enough. I'm just say this. He's not good enough. However, I think there is a player there. I think he is a massive scapegoat. Everyone keeps digging him out. I mean, for me, if we sign a player who's not performing, I'm not digging him out every game saying, "Oh, he's at fault again. He's giving the ball away." No, don't you back your player. So it's a shame he's at Arsenal because I would really want him to do well. It's just a shame that he's in Arsenal, so I can't allow him to. I can't want him to do well in that sense.
Yeah.
But, no, I think, and you're right with the striker situation as well. You do need a great striker. Tony has made it quite clear he wants to leave, so that could be the one that you get.
And he name dropped us as well.
There you go.
When he did that, he is a Liverpool fan, but the fact that he name dropped us is I reckon there's been a conversation.
Yeah.
And because we were there with David Raya, so we were talking to them this summer. I wouldn't be surprised if we said, look, come January, we'd be well in for Tony. And it could be a thing where maybe Nketiah goes the other way even to save some money, or maybe goes there on a loan and then we try to sell him in at the end of the season so that they're not completely I wouldn't mind that because I love Nketiah. I love him so much. I think the first goal I saw live was Nketiah against West Ham. And I was so happy that it was him because I've always backed him, but City wouldn't have him in their squad. He wouldn't get in. Well, he probably would get in Liverpool's team because but not in the first team. He would be second, maybe third choice. But Liverpool have,
the sort of role Origi.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind him if he stuck around and he was that third choice kind of you can, because he can be very useful and he is a very good player. He would start for most teams in the league, but he wouldn't start for City. He wouldn't start for Liverpool, and that's the teams that we need to be looking at, and we need to be better than you in as many positions as possible. And if we can't be better than you, we need to be close, and he's not close there. So yeah, I think he probably starts for Spurs in that, if you were to move Son back to the left wing, I think he could easily start for you, and I think that will never happen, hopefully. But if that did happen, I think you would probably and then see just how good he is. But beyond that, he maybe not for United, but he'd certainly be their second best striker. He'll be there or thereabouts for every team in the league, apart from the top ones. But we need to evolve past that. And so, yeah, whether it's Tony, whether it's an Evan Ferguson, an Osimhen, that Victor Boniface is looking good in the Bundesliga.
He's serious to Leverkusen,
and he's not just a Bundesliga merchant because he's got full package. So he's not just pacing behind. He's.
Oh yeah, the way he held off a defender for his first goal today.
Yeah, mad. So yeah, there's the strikers out there. So,
Gareth, Connor, we're going to end it there. Thank you, boys, for joining.
Thank you.
Where can we find you on the socials?
I'll let Gareth go first.
Oh, just letting you go first. At Football. It's on the screen there. That's on every platform basically.
CT's McClovinya, Instagram, TikTok, parodies, talking about football, getting crazy. Let's have a bit of fun. Yeah, that's
Connor is one of my favorite people to follow on online, just because it's just like proper fan.
He is a proper fan, is he? He goes for it. Boys, thank you for joining.